It's interesting and good to know. I mean, you've been a permanent secretary.
Yeah.
And you know the impression Nigerians have of civil servants and permanent, those in that particular position, but at the federal level, state level as well. Is it true? That kind of impression that permanent secretaries with a pen that they can do and undo. And as a matter of fact, where we're in today, we should look at restructuring the civil service across board.
The civil service are the engine room of this, the civil service itself. The civil servants. They are the engine of the civil service. They are the policy executors of government.
Some say corruption thrives in the civil service as well.
I don't believe it, because one, the issue is that when you make the budget, you defend the budget, with the Ministry of Budget and Planning, and then you implement according to the budget passed.
And they also ask, do we ever really implement the budget in this country, both at the federal and state level?
Well, as far as Lagos is concerned, in fact, it is a fact that the budget were implemented according to what's written. Except we have some few ones we need to add to it, and the governor on his own wisdom will go back to House of Assembly to have maybe a review of the budget that there are some projects that I need to implement in this area and we need more money. So he has to go back and get an approval. In Lagos State, there have never been a situation where we go out of the budget. Because one, if you recall, that when Governor Faisal was there, he made a promise during the campaign that he was going to implement the 10-lane on Badagry Express Road. The thing is going on, and it's going on fast.
But I mean, much later, we've seen state governors complain they can't pay salaries, the funds accruing to them, they say is never enough. And some have said, well, in their own case, maybe states that are lucky, part of the reason could be what their predecessors might have done better in terms of restructuring the civil service. If we were to change to either a parliamentary system or continue the way we are now, but to get a better deal, do we or will we need to restructure the civil service?
If we have to know, okay, where are we? Where are we coming from? Where are we? Then where we're going? Then we will look at it, put the two plans on the table and see how the two could be harmonized for the betterment of Nigeria.
What do you think? Because you've seen it. You've worked with politicians. You've seen them come and go. And you've risen to the highest level in civil service. What do you think should be done?
Well, I think the civil service will be structured in a way that will be in the best interest of Nigeria. That's my own opinion.
That's very vague. That's one of the vaguest suggestions I've ever heard.
Wait, well, looking at the recession and everything, what we need is what we should have.
Yeah, because one of the reasons, one of the things that has come to the fore is the salary wage, the salary bill of every state government. When they tell you how much it is you're spending on recurrent, and how much of that recurrent is salaries that must be paid every month, you have to ask, are we really getting value for money? That's on the one hand. And when you look at the fact that in some states, as much as 70–80% is going to pay just workers in the civil service, and you look at the population of the state in relation to the amount of workers there, you have to ask, is the state only getting funds for just salaries of a very tiny fraction of the population in their state? So people have asked, is there any way we can restructure or rejig the civil service in such a way that it becomes more efficient, to serve the people better and do the work that it's meant to do?
We can do audit of the civil service as it were before now, and what exactly do we want the civil service to be, the audit of all the staff structure and the various departments that we have, various ministries, and how they were being, the policies were being implemented, and how they, and so we, vis-a-vis those ones, then we can sort of have the numbers of civil servants that will somehow implement what.
Do you agree that a restructuring is needed in most civil services across the Federation?
Well, I work with the Lagos State government.
I understand. We take without prejudice to the civil service in Lagos. So what I'm saying is, well, I'm sure you've also had cause to travel outside the state.
Yes, we did.
And you've seen how other civil services are run. Do you think that they could do with a bit more restructuring?
Well, I agree, and I would say to some extent, not in all perspective, because during the civil service is meant to serve the people. So in line with service to the people, we have to make sure that the members of the public who are engaged as civil servants are not only eligible enough, they are qualified to be there, and by so doing, we get the number of people that are strictly necessary for what they have to do. So with that, well, I'll say if the restructuring is in line with that sort of auditing and pulling down those things, well, fine. But if it's just for auditing sake, because and just for restructuring sake, no, I think it will be, and it will backfire with time.
Well, you can definitely talk about it backfiring, because we've always seen situations whereby any talk of restructuring mentioned in the civil service is met with stiff resistance. That always happens. I'm sure you've seen that happen more than once. How would you advise state governors, for instance, those who think that my civil service needs to be restructured? How would you say they should go about it without meeting that sort of resistance?
Well, I said earlier on, they need to, put down their policies and look at each department, each ministry, how, the numbers of civil servants they would love to, work in various departments, and say how fitted are those numbers that will work there. So you just don't pay for people sitting down doing nothing. That's what I meant by father. Well, if you restructure in that perspective, fine. But if you just restructuring for restructuring's sake, I think it's out of point.
Even though I don't know who will restructure for the sake of restructuring, they always want to achieve something. Could you tell us too, because time and again Nigerians read about ghost workers, almost different states, even at the federal level, they keep saying we have ghost workers, we've been able to do this and that. How does that work? How do you ever get ghost workers in the civil service?
Well, that happens sometimes. Maybe some people that I could classify as awol. They just maybe some will just disappear without being there, and some will just
collecting salaries.
You just know that the salaries are going. But with you as a permanent secretary, it is your duty to see that you don't allow such things to happen.
So where it happens, we hold the permanent secretary responsible.
Well, he's the head of the ministry, so I believe it's his job to see that things were done normally and correctly too. So he's responsible for that. I should see that ghost workers should not be seen to be operating or to be seen within his ministry. There's no two-way to it. That I believe that strongly.
All right, well, thank you for coming on. Mr. Joseph Agbenla is a retired Surveyor General and Permanent Secretary, Office of the Surveyor General in Lagos. And thank you for the insights.
Thank you very much.
We'll be back in a moment and continue our focus on how do we improve the economy. Do join us again.